Well, with that, we move on to the final session of the BFSI track of the Global Digital League 2.0, obviously the second edition, which is the closing keynote titled The Master Plan Strategies to Reach the Unbanked Population. And it's an absolute pleasure and honor to welcome and introduce Sunil Mehta, Chief Executive Officer, Indian Banks Association, for the closing keynote. Mr. Mehta, over to you.
Thank you, Ivan, and a very good afternoon to all the participants. I'm really thankful to the Economic Times for organizing this Global Digital League 2 second edition and allowing me to participate and share my thoughts into it. And the topic chosen is really very relevant for our country as well as for the banking sector in particular. You're all pretty well aware that India, the majority of the population still lives in villages. Financial inclusion is going on for a couple of years, and a great impetus was there with the Jan Dhan Yojana, which allowed the 27 crores new accounts to be opened in a short span of time, which has now multiplied, and the number of accounts which have come into the banking fold has gone up. But this is not enough. The number of accounts that has come up, they have taken the advantage of benefits, direct benefit transfer, and that has facilitated the entire population to take benefit of digital banking. So the money could be transferred even during the pandemic when people were having the lockdown and they were not in a position to virtually to go out and take the banking services. So money was transferred to their account so they could draw from the alternative delivery channels available with the banking system. Investment into technology began in the banking industry about 2-3 decades back, and that has really paved the way for our sustenance during this pandemic time. 98% of the banking operations could be conducted during this period, and only the 2% which was left over, mainly because of the containment zones which were there. So that was possible just because the bankers have invested into the technology, into the IT systems, and has leveraged on that technology, which came very helpful during this pandemic time. The alternative delivery channels could facilitate the people in at least drawing their money from the banking system and taking the advantage of the government benefits that are being made available to them in the form of 500 rupees to women beneficiaries, payment to the NREGA beneficiaries, payment to the different sections of the society and weaker sections of the society. That has been facilitated, and that has really helped us in sustenance. Now, this clearly establishes that the key differentiator in the BFSI sector will be their technological developments. And the technological developments, especially into the digital space, will really define how they have a niche segment, how they will be able to cater to the larger segment of the population. As Gandhiji said, India lives in villages, and just making an account available to them will not suffice. We will have to integrate them into the total financial system. They need to be provided the lending platform, and for which the entire banking system has to transform it, the way of doing businesses. Gradually, the brick and mortar concept, which will be very costly for operation, may have to be streamlined and changed to a more on a virtual model. I think the bankers are the repositories of a key, very great data. They have got a large data banks, and because of the transaction data they have, they can definitely capitalize on that data and can use the machine learning, the artificial intelligence methods, the predictive analysis, the various the technological tools to define the new products. They can go for digital lending because the payment space has already been occupied now, and most of the banking system has taken the advantage of digitalization of the payment space. But the next growth area will be the lending space. And I think there is a great scope available with the banking system for collaboration with the fintechs, for collaboration with the low cost operating NBFCs, for a co-lending model, and these will facilitate definitely the digital the products and digital lending methods that will bring greater number of people on fold, because we all are pretty well aware that the cost of operation in a rural area will be definitely higher, and the digitalization is the way forward to reduce that cost of operation by making these products available digitally and remitting the funds digitally, which can be utilized and repaired also by the individual beneficiaries digitally. So this will require a manifold approach. Like strategies that will be needed is, first thing is awareness and the recognition of the requirement for digital transformation, and that requirement has already been felt by majority of the banking system. Many banks have started taking lead. They have started putting their products onto the digital channel. Some of the banks have already placed their housing loan products, their consumer loan products, their personal loan products, and they are available digitally to the individuals. Now the stage has come when the other products will have to be digitalized. And right now, the outreach of this product is universal, but its availment is mainly confined to the metros and the bigger cities because of the awareness level. The biggest challenge that is available among the population is how to use the technology. They need some hand holding, and it will require a greater ecosystem support. The greater ecosystem support, what I mean is, like the entire banking system will have to transform the way they onboard their customer, the way they provide the products, the way they deliver the services, and the way they facilitate the customers in availing those services and repayment. So first is understanding and awareness among the banking sector for quickly transforming their existing processes to digital processes in payment space. That has already been done. Now the next stage is for a lending space, and the insurance sector will definitely complement it. So once the lending space is digitalized, it will have to percolate down to the rural areas. Now how this will happen? It will really require a great strategies to reach to the bottom of the pyramid people, those who are the rural areas and do not have very good access to the technology, very good access to the awareness. So the requirement will be, the banking system will have to create focal point customer service providers. They can utilize the existing infrastructure of a banking correspondent. They can utilize the existing infrastructure of the CSCs, because most of the panchayat level, we have got our CSC centers. They can also utilize the services of the low-cost operating MFIs and the NBFCs, who have a quick and easy reach to the masses. Now, when the banking sector start channelizing their resources into these directions, the ecosystem will develop, where the co-lending model for small borrowers will exist. The bankers will have the advantage of a cheaper sources of fund, whereas the NBFCs and the MFIs will have the advantage of a low cost of a collection, so collection efficiencies can be better. Similarly, with the digital penetration, the cost of delivery will also come down. Standardization of the processes, standardization of the product, tracking of their application, and the entire digitalization of the loan life cycle, right from origination, customer onboarding, underwriting, to its documentation, its disbursal, as well as its monitoring, follow-up, repayments, and closure. So all this has to be digitalized. And this is a step in which we at IBA is really working for it. The government has already mandated the national NESL for providing this facility. So NESL has been mandated as a repository for digital documentation. Customer onboarding has already started. Banks have provided certain platforms. One of the platforms was inaugurated by our Honorable Finance Minister, Prime Minister also, that was a 59minutes.com. Now, various lending platforms have also been introduced by various banks. So customers can be onboarded through this platform. Underwriting can also happen. And in going forward, the documentation can also happen digitally and can be stored as a authentic digital platform, which will definitely facilitate the customers in saving the efforts and the cost in availing the banking services. This will also provide a low-cost solution to the banking sector for lending, because we all are fully aware that lending a small ticket advances for a bigger commercial bank is a costly affair. And that's why it becomes difficult for them to make it an economical viable proposition to cater to the smaller segments of the economy and bring the unbanked into the population. Now, with the Jan Dhan account, the government has come out with the second phase of it. They have already mandated the banks to come out with a scheme that is a overdraft scheme up to 5,000 rupees, a minimum overdraft scheme to every Jan Dhan account holder who is a beneficiary under the in a group. So joint lending the groups and the JLG groups are there. So these groups can avail these benefits. So these groups, once they start availing these benefits, they will have the second phase of financial inclusion. Maybe the second phase of financial inclusion will give them the banking habits. Once they learn the banking habits, then there will be a greater need for hand-holding by the banking system. That greater need will be to educate the customer how to avail the digital lending products. The way we have got a service provider in the area of filing of the income tax return, there are people who help the individual assessee in filing their return. The same way, the bankers can create such an ecosystem where we can help the population in handholding, telling them how to apply through digitally and how to service their loan digitally. And once it is done, then it will automatically multiply in a geometrical progression. So awareness among banks in transformation from the existing business processes to digital lending processes, awareness among customers about availability of these products, their hand-holding and onboarding so that they can start availing these services, and making these services available into the rural and semi-urban area. That is the biggest master plan that will require support from the entire ecosystem. Fintechs definitely, because of their technological superiority, can play a very great role in achieving these objectivities. They can design, especially I think I know a few of the fintechs are already working into the agricultural lending space. That agricultural lending space, they are collecting the geographical data, the crop-wise data, the animal husbandry data, and that data bank will really facilitate the bankers in taking the decisions for lending to the rural and semi-urban areas. Similarly, some of the fintechs are working on on products which helps them in having a proper identification. Some of the governments have already gone for digitalization of their land records. Once the land records are digitalized, the individual land ownership rights of the farmers are recognized. They are able to be brought into the digital fold through a lending channel. Then, of course, this will be able to cover the greater population of the country, and that will really facilitate the unbanked population to bring into the folds of the BFSI sector. One major challenge which the banking sector is facing right now is increasing number of frauds that are happening into the digital space. Now, 2-3 things are mainly responsible. One thing is lack of awareness among the customer, that how to keep their passwords protected, how to keep not to share their personal details or financial details with unreliable entities, and how to safeguard their own interests. This will require a large amount of investment into the customer education. And I think the entire ecosystem, maybe the government has already announced some of the programs for digital literacy. The bankers have already created the financial literacy centers into each district, and now the entire ecosystem can create such awareness so that people down the line, those who are not availing the banking services through the digital mode, they can start availing these services by getting the information about the various products available, how to assess those products, and how to service those products and take the benefit out of it. One thing I would like to share with the entire audience today is, like, banking system is gearing up. As an IBA, then we are working and proactively talking to all our bankers members. There is a need for digital platforms. The RBI regulator is proactively helping the entire ecosystem. First, they have created a large payment infrastructure in the form of NPCI, so that NPCI has now facilitated everyone in doing the transactions through UPI, through mobile banking, and now new umbrella entities licenses are under process at the Reserve Bank of level. So these licenses, once given to the new umbrella entities, they will have a greater collaboration with the fintechs. They will have a greater collaboration with the new service providers, and these new umbrella entities will facilitate the further diversification of the entire digital space. So this is one step that has already been taken by the regulator. Now, from the government side, I think the way the government is incentivize the digital transaction, the way they are incentivizing the digital payments, certain concessions are made available to the GST payers also once they provide most of the services through digitally and take the payments through digital modes. So they get certain incentive. I think government need to come out with a little more incentive in this area to facilitate and encourage the people for adopting the digital modes. Now, there is a role on the part of the society also. It is our role, because once we have learned how to do the digital transaction, as a society, we can go forward and we can tell the people who are surrounding us and are not availing the services from the BFI sector through digital modes. We can encourage them. We can, like every person educates 2 or 3 or people and give them the literacy and the handhold them about the utilization of the BFI services through the digital space. That will really propagate the spread of the digital. My personal view is that in times to come, the business of the banking, the business of the insurance is going to transform substantially. It will have to go from phygital to virtual, and virtual banks may be a reality in times to come. Virtual currency is already into the process, like the cryptocurrencies are already under the considerations of the regulator. And the awareness and the availability of the digital infrastructure in rural and semi-urban area is also now increasing. With the increasing availability of these infrastructure, the adoption of various technologies, the adoption of various services in the BFI sector will definitely grow. Now, what is most important is like how do we create our strategies? So every sector has got a different strategy. For example, agriculture lending, the strategy can be creating the fintechs which have created the data regarding various crops which are grown to the area, the land holding pattern, the monsoon predictions, and based on that, if they can give a role where they can share that data with the financial system, and they collaborate with the financial system, and based on that data, the bankers take their underwriting decisions and provide the relief to the provide the banking services to the farmers through a digital mode, and these CSCs or maybe the banking correspondent or the other focal points which are created by the banking system, they can facilitate the customers availing these services. Then the agriculture can definitely get a better facilities, a better underwriting, and a better better spread of the credit. So similarly, there will be different strategies for MSME segment, because MSME segment, and now the government has come out with various schemes like emergency line of credit. All these are made available, but during the pandemic, some of the borrowers could not go to the bank branches for availing these services, and it has taken a little longer time for them to take the benefits of the emergency line of credit. Now, similar type of facilities, if it is digitalized, then I think the availment of these services may happen much faster, and everybody can definitely avail these services. So my thought on this is that strategies will have to be redefined in times to come. It will have to be broad-based, and the way the country has taken the benefit of mass transfers or direct benefit transfers during this pandemic time, the way the pandemic has pushed forward the digitalization requirement into the banking space, the same requirement, if it is continued in times to come, and banks are able to use the new technologies like clouds are getting more acceptability. Right now they are getting acceptability for some ancillary services, and gradually they can have for other services also. So these services will definitely facilitate the banking system to enlarge the scope of their penetration into the unbanked areas. I hope there is a tremendous synergy available right now for collaboration among fintechs, among the service providers and the banking system. And collaboration is the way forward to go for bringing the unbanked population into the banking fold. And with this, I convey my sincere thanks to the Economic Times for providing this opportunity to share my thoughts. And I'll now hand over to Ivan, and if there's any question, I'll be too happy to answer that.
That was Sunil Mehta, Chief Executive Officer, Indian Banks Association, with the closing keynote titled The Master Plan, Strategies to Reach the Unbanked Population. Thank you, sir, for sharing, I beg your pardon, your thoughts and all the experience that you have, the initiatives that are being taken, and what we could look forward to in the BFSI sector. Right now, we do not have any questions, but if there are any, we'll send them to you offline. Thank you for taking time off from your busy schedule and joining us at this summit.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes the BFSI League of Amazon Internet Services presents the Economic Times Global Digital League 2.0, co-powered by Kyndryl. The theme for this summit being Gearing Up for Unmatched Performance. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our partners for this summit. Presenting partner, Amazon Internet Services, co-powered by partner, Kyndryl, innovation partner, Dell Technologies, platinum partners, NetApp and Reddington, gold partners, Commvault, Juniper Networks, Exclusive Networks, Fiserv and Checkpoint Software Technologies, associate partners, Poly Datamatics and Jabra, supporting association, Commodity Participants Association of India, Cyber Society of India, and National Accreditation Board for Hospitals. This summit was brought to you by ET Unwired and ET Edge. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers for the day, the members of the panel, the trialogues, and their respective moderators, once again for taking time off from their busy schedule and sharing their insights and experience with us at this virtual summit. Last but not least, a big thank you to all of you for joining us at this summit. I am sure you're leaving with some implementable takeaways. Before you leave, do download your digital certificate of participation by simply clicking on the digital certificate button at the bottom of your screen and save it to your desktop. And finally, on your way out, do click on the feedback button at the bottom of your screen and leave your valuable feedback. It will not take more than a couple of minutes. Your feedback is important to us, and this will ensure our summits are just the way you want it the next time around. Have a good evening. Stay safe. God bless.